Hello and welcome. This is Omar Torres, and you're listening to Pop Therapy, a podcast that explores the intersection between psychology and pop culture. There's so much to unpack, so join me and let's get started. Well, if it isn't you. Hi, it's me, Omar, your friendly neighborhood therapist, and this one is going to be a short one. Now, it's not because I don't want to spend hours upon hours talking to you. Of course I do. You know I love that. I love you guys. I love you. But I do have a trip that's coming up and I have to finish packing. Of course, I waited to the last minute. And I do need to go to sleep early because Lord knows what the TSA situation is going to be like tomorrow. So I want to show up bright and early to make sure that I make my flight. So I wanted to start the episode officially by doing a little facial relaxation moment. So I want you to take a pause, take a moment, and just bring your awareness to your face and let go of any tension that you're holding in your face. We often hold it in our jaws, the tension that is, and we often hold tension in our forehead, muscles. So just take a minute right now to just bring your awareness to your face and let all the tension that you might be holding in your face melt away. Just take a minute to give yourself that little treat. Let all the tension just evaporate and feel your facial muscles just get really loose and slack. It's such a nice little treat that you can give yourself, especially with all of life's curveballs and tension that's going on right now. So I wanted to do a little bit of a microdose rage bait moment as well. Now that we're nice and relaxed, now we're going to microdose a little bit of rage bait or clickbait, if you will. There is a phrase that's being used often that I'm going to repeat. And I just want you to take note of how you feel when you hear me say it. Okay, so get ready on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We are so cooked. We are so screwed. The world is on fire. We're cooked. Take a minute to recognize, without making any decisions, right? I just want you to take note of what was going through your mind or what is going through your mind now that you heard that phrase. What was happening for you when you heard me say, we are so cooked? Did you feel validated? Were you kind of like, oh my gosh, yes, I agree? Did you feel a little anxious, right? A little panicked even, worried, concerned? Did you feel a little sad? Was there a heaviness that you felt in your body? I want you to take note of what your brain was telling you in that moment. What were the thoughts crossing your mind when you heard me say, we are so cooked? And I want you to take a minute to recognize what's going on with your body. Where do you feel the feelings in your body? Are you feeling them in your shoulders? Are your shoulders really tense? Do you feel your face frowning or your brow furrowing? Has the tension returned to your face? Do you feel it in the pit of your stomach? Do you feel a tightness in your chest? Take a moment to sort of zoom out and look at yourself and observe and wonder and know and be aware of what is happening to you in this moment after hearing me say something that you've probably heard a lot, some variation of, we're screwed, we're so cooked, we're fucked. That, ladies and gentlemen, is clickbait. It is a form of rage bait. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't say it. And I myself have been guilty of thinking that and saying that to friends. But I also want to take a minute to kind of admit or acknowledge, rather, that that is also clickbait. And you're going to be seeing variations of that a lot on social media. And I want you to take a moment to just pause and notice when you hear that, when you read that, that phrase or any variation of that phrase, I want you to practice just pausing and taking note of like what's happening to you in that moment. This kind of metacognition is what I'm consistently helping my clients work on. This is where you train the muscle of not getting swept up in intense feelings or lost in intense feelings. It puts you back in the driver's seat of yourself, right? And it takes the initial reaction, the initial emotion out of the driver's seat and more like in the back seat, maybe on the passenger side, right? If that's helpful to think about it that way. But this is what metacognition looks like. You are processing what you're thinking and feeling. You're thinking about what you're thinking about, okay? And you're noticing what's happening to you, your psychology, your cognition, and your body. This is going to help you navigate emotions masterfully, okay? I wanted to spend the next few minutes, again, this is a short episode, so, bear with me, but I wanted to spend the next few minutes sharing with y'all words of wisdom that I live by, words of wisdom that I try to live by. These are words of wisdom, sage advice, whatever you want to call it, that I really try my best to live by as consistently as possible. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There's more that I will share with you in the future, but I wanted to share some of those things with you right now. And I hope that some of these, I don't know, maybe you can call them like nuggets of wisdom, right? You find helpful. I'm hoping that they will be of use to you. So feel free to write them down or, make a voice note or whatever, and sort of like put these in your back pocket, put these in your toolkit so that way you can use whenever you want. So let's dive right in. One phrase that I absolutely love is, or I guess it's a saying, not so much of a phrase, but the first one is, if you want to win the marathon, the universe hands you running shoes, not the trophy. One more time for the cheap seats in the back. If you want to win the marathon, the universe hands you running shoes, not the trophy. This reminds me of another phrase that I have repeated to myself a gajillion times, which is, when you ask God for patience, he gives you a line at the bank. That's a pretty well-known one as well. And I think these two are touching on the same thing, which is that life does not hand you the finish line. It doesn't give you the finish line. It gives you the path towards the finish line. So whatever it is that you're pursuing, if it's love, if it's connection, if it's a promotion, if it's clarity, whatever it is that you are seeking, life is going to give you the opportunity to seek that out. Life is going to give you the opportunity to practice the thing that you're looking for, to practice developing that muscle, or it's going to show you, or rather give you, the path forward towards that thing that you want. So if you are looking for love, life isn't just going to hand you love, right? But it's going to hand you, or rather show you and put before you, the people, places, and things that'll help you find love and or feel connected to love. Okay? So if you want to win the marathon, don't forget, the universe hands you running shoes, not the trophy. The next phrase that I repeat to myself all the time is simple, 3 words: lower the stakes. I can't tell you how many times my initial reaction to something is, especially if it's like really bad news, is to panic or to feel like I need to do something now. I need to do something immediately. And then I get overwhelmed by that feeling of urgency because it's so panicky, it's so erratic, and it's so intense. And, even when it comes to really, really good news, I find myself like, man, thinking or feeling as though I need to do something in that exact moment instead of just taking a beat, slowing down and lowering the stakes. There's so many times when I am considering something or trying to figure something out or coping with really challenging news. I really up the ante in my own head. I really, I don't exactly catastrophize, but I get right up to that catastrophizing line. And I'm often reminding myself, Omar, lower the stakes. It is not as catastrophic or as significant as you are making it out to be. And that little conversation, it just slows me down. It just gives me a second to sort of like think and consider and wonder. The space that exists between the initial thought or reaction and the action, that space in between those two things, that's where choice lives. But you need to give yourself a minute, a moment to think and consider, because it is within that space that you can make an informed decision, or as informed a decision as you can possibly make given the circumstances. Next, you cannot selectively numb emotions. This is an oldie, but a goodie. So many clinicians have said this throughout history. So many healers have repeated this throughout history. I heard it first from Brené Brown. You cannot selectively numb emotions. Your capacity to experience the full depth of joy and happiness is correlated with your capacity to feel the full depth of sadness and uncomfortable feelings without getting swept up in it, without getting lost in it, of course. So I want to say that one more time. Your capacity to feel the full depth of joy is correlated with your capacity to feel the full depth of sadness. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot say, I don't like sadness, I don't like anger, I don't like frustration, so I'm going to lobotomize myself of those. You can't. Because if you lobotomize yourself of sadness, you lobotomize yourself of joy. It almost pains me to say, because I would love to think, and I would love it for it to be true, that we could just selectively cut out the uncomfortable emotions. But it's the truth is, folks, is you can't selectively numb. Next, one trick that I like to use, especially when I am having anxious thoughts or sad thoughts or uncomfortable thoughts, is I start with the phrase, or rather, I start the conversation by saying, my brain is telling me blank. My brain is saying blank. So instead of having the anxious thoughts just sort of play on repeat, I don't know, and it could be any anxious thought like, oh my gosh, I'm really nervous about tomorrow's interview, or I'm not feeling very confident, I feel insecure, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not handsome enough. Instead of that, what I say is, okay, so my brain is telling me that I'm not good enough. My brain is telling me that I'm not smart enough. My brain is telling me that I'm stupid for wanting to start my own podcast. I start the phrase that way. What it does is it creates safe distance between me and my thoughts. So that way, my thoughts are not in the driver's seat. I am. My awareness of those thoughts is in the driver's seat. And when you come from a place of awareness, of understanding, you can make better decisions for yourself that are not led by anxious or uncomfortable or challenging feelings and thoughts. They're not led by these inaccurate assessments of your reality. because feelings are real, right? Feelings are facts, but they're not telling you the facts necessarily, right? They're not necessarily giving you an accurate assessment of your reality. I like to give myself some space from these thoughts by saying, my brain is telling me blank. And when I come from that angle, I'm not as overwhelmed by the thoughts. This is not something that when I say once, I automatically feel better. Of course not. This is a process. This is a journey. Buckle up. This is a phrase that I use over and over and over and over again. And over time, and with grace, and with practice and repetition, the thoughts feel less intense. And I feel less overwhelmed and less overcome by them. So that is a little strategy, a little tip to get some distance between you and your thoughts. Next, I truly believe that we have, as human beings, an innate capacity to heal. We see this all the time. When you get a paper cut, the paper cut doesn't stay open forever, and you don't just bleed out. Without making the conscious decision, what does your body do? It heals. So we have this innate capacity to heal, even if we are not consciously, actively participating in the healing process. It's, of course, more helpful if you participate, right? You get a paper cut, you put some ointment on it, would be nice, maybe a Band-Aid, that'd be nice. But if you didn't, your body would heal it anyway. It would attempt to heal it anyway. And barring anything disruptive that you're doing, right? Barring you cutting that part of your finger with like a knife or like, I don't know, gouging it open with your fingers, barring anything extreme like that, your body is going to heal itself. And the same is true for our psychology. We have, folks, this psychological immune system that acts and behaves just like our immune system that we have in our body, our physical immune system that fights off infections and viruses and bacteria. We have a psychological version of that even if we're not consciously and actively thinking about it, is working diligently to heal from whatever is happening to us, from whatever bad or terrible news that we got. There's a term known as hedonic adaptation, right? So hedonic adaptation refers to the very human phenomenon and experience of returning to our baseline whenever we get really, really wonderful news or really, really bad news. And then, and not just really bad or wonderful news, like any kind of news, right? Even if it's like mildly bad or mildly good news, we tend to revert back to whatever our baseline is and or was. Remember the first time that you got your heart broken? Remember the first time that you were fired from a job? You're okay now. It took some time. It took effort on your part to get back to your routine or get back to your life. It took a minute, but eventually you returned back to your baseline. And that is your psychological immune system at work. And just like a paper cut, you can help speed up the healing process, or you can get in the way and slow it down. Okay? You can get out of your psychological immune system's way and let it do its thing, and you can help it along, or you can slow it down, or you can disrupt it. So keep that in mind. We all have this innate capacity and ability to heal, both physically and psychologically. Lastly, and this is kind of related, there's just been so much grief in the air lately. I think there's just so much that we're mourning. There's so much loss all around us. And I just want to say that grief is not a problem to fix. It's an experience that needs to be witnessed. I'm going to say that one more time. Grief is not a problem to fix, but rather it is an experience that needs to be witnessed. This is where community comes in. This is where family, friends, loved ones. Grief is not something you do alone. It's not something that you shoo away. It's not something that you numb. It's not something that you medicate. It's not something that you fix. It's something that you witness. It's something that you relent to, that you allow. And it's something that you allow others, people that you trust, to also witness, to be there for you. Grief is, pretty complex, and especially because it's like not a problem that you need to fix. It's not like a fight that you have with a friend and you have to reconcile or repair or atone or what have you. So that's part of what makes it so heavy and so challenging. It really is. It's a gauntlet. It's an emotional gauntlet. And what I want to remind y'all, for anyone that ever has dealt with grief or is dealing with any degree of grief, is that desire is a symptom of hope. During your grieving experience, or during any experience, any challenging experience, if there's even the slightest, teeniest, tiniest part of you that wants, that desires, I firmly believe that that means that there is still hope, that you still have hope in there somewhere. Even if it's the smallest glimmer, that's all you need. The smallest ember, that's all you need. I hope that was helpful. I hope you all find ways to adapt everything I just said into your own style, whether it's you reframe or rephrase it in a way that feels more authentic to you, or whether, you tweak it a little bit in a way that resonates with you. And it may not resonate with you at all right now, but keep it in your back pocket, because sometimes, timing is really important. There have been instances where I've heard things from someone, whether it was advice or wisdom, and in the moment it didn't really resonate with me. And it wasn't until later, it wasn't until a particular experience occurred that I was able to sort of look back on those sage words and realize, oh shit, that was major. That is really significant and really important. So keep it in your back pocket. If none of these are resonating with you, that's totally fine. It does not have to. So there is no shame in that. But keep it around and just take a little mental note, because one day it might click for you or resonate with you. So just keep that in mind. Now, I am, as you know, a therapist, but this podcast is no substitute for good old-fashioned therapy. So take what's useful, leave the rest, and don't you forget, therapy makes you hotter. Bye.